Okay, thank you for coming back. Right on. You guys enjoying the show? All right. Fantastic, I'm glad you're here. So, we just got 5 songs we're going to do for you, and there's some pretty amazing songs, and we're really excited, of course, and let's bring out, without any more chit-chat, we're going to bring out Patterson here. When I asked Ben to come out here, I said, I had a special request, and I said, we have to play Trombone, Detritus. And he said, oh, I better start practicing again.
Well, thanks a lot. It's love to see everybody this evening. Welcome to the show. Oh, wait, this is said already, isn't it? Oh, gosh. I don't know if I've ever played with 3 big bands back to back on the same concert before. So this might be a record for me. The show has been fun. So yeah, that first tune on this set, Trombone Detritus. I don't. Does everybody know what the word detritus means? Is that a word? I don't know. I discovered that word at some point, and I thought it was cool, so I guess I just decided to use it in the title. But you know, it means like sort of like the broken remains of something, and I thought it might be fitting for this particular tune because my chops are a smoking wreck after I get done with this final stuff. So yeah, but it's fun to do. I haven't actually played that in several years. We recorded it with Airman and Note on an album called Compositions back in like 2011 or something. And I don't think I've played it since then, so it's cool to break it out again. Let's see, we're going to go on now. This is something else that we recorded with Airman and Note, and this is a composition by one of my favorite composers and tenor sax players, the great Joe Henderson. Got any Joe Henderson fans out there? Yeah, it's hard to overstate, in my opinion, Joe's importance in the lineage of jazz musicians, both as a player and as a composer. And so being able to take on one of his tunes is both intimidating and really exciting. So I feel like I put a little extra into this one, so hopefully you like it. This is Joe Henderson's A Shade of Jade. Comes right up. How about Andrew Martinez on saxophone? We're gonna, there's really only one thing you can do after that much excitement, and that's play a ballad, right? So, so we've got another ballad for you, and this one is an original tune of mine that I arranged for a big band. And after I composed the tune, I thought it was pretty nice, and I thought, maybe I'll take a chance. And this is kind of taking a chance and name it for my wife. So, if she doesn't like it, so, but she at least pretends to like it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think she's okay with it. So, but anyway, we're still living together and everything. We're still married, so so good enough, I guess. Anyway, so this is named for my beautiful wife, Anne Marie. Yeah, that's right. You can say "ah" if you want to. funny to say, but it just went right out of my head, so I'm sorry about that. Maybe it'll come to me. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead with another tune that's an original of mine, and this is on my latest CD, which I mentioned earlier. It's entitled Mad Scientist Music. The title, actually, it's kind of a funny story how I got it. I don't know, I think it's kind of funny. Maybe you guys will think it's funny. But I was playing with my band at a club in Washington, D.C. called Blues Alley, and the owner of the club was in attendance that night, and after one of the tunes, he yelled out, "What do you call this kind of music, Ben?" And which was kind of a strange thing to do, really, but he's the owner of the club, so I guess he can do it if he wants to. And then after the set, he came up to me and said, "Hey, I figured out what this is. Your music is mad scientist music, and you're Dr. Frankenstein." So, like, okay, well, I guess that, I don't know if that works like a compliment. I had to put that in the computer. I don't know, I have to ask ChatGTP or something. Is that the same? I've never used it, obviously. I know nothing about it. But this tune is it's a blues. It's going to give several people in the band a chance to play. You know, blues is something that's kind of it's in the blood of every jazz musician, I think. It's one of the first forms that we learn how to play and improvise over, and we spend basically our whole lives trying to learn how to play the blues right. And the thing is, like, you know, after hearing I don't know how many millions of courses of blues, I do kind of get a little bored with it. Don't tell anybody. It's between us, right? So I thought maybe instead of just having endless courses of blues just the same over and over again, that I thought I'd change this one up a little bit. So it's got some twists and turns, as you'll hear, and it has I don't know how nerdy we want to get about composition here, but it has a five-note motif that the whole tune is built around, which just means that there's a pattern of notes and it comes over and over again, but I kind of twist it and turn it this way and that, and see if you notice that, I guess. So, since this tune is so mixed up, I just decided, what the heck, I'll call it the mix-up.
Okay, let's hear all these soloists. I'm going to test my memory here. Of course, we had Ben on here, Ben, and his wonderful arrangement, the mix-up. Then we had our trombones here. We had Mark Maynard, Ron Phillips, and Stephen Hughes, Appolina. And also here we had our newest member of the band. Here we have Bill Rodriguez. So new. And also coming down and subbing for our normal second trombone player, we have Mike Fornato. Give it up for Mike coming down to help us saxophone. And also, of course, we had Justin Claveria on tenor saxophone. And also our lead alto player, John Sullivan.
Hey, so I want to just take a second to acknowledge some folks that kind of get overlooked, especially when they're doing something as complicated as that. You absolutely cannot play a piece of music like that without a top-notch rhythm section, and we're so lucky to have one this evening. Give it up for this rhythm section, would you? Yeah, maybe especially the drummer has to be really on the ball to get all those tempo changes, so thanks for doing that. Well, hey, believe it or not, we're down to our very last big band selection of the evening. I mean, we can maybe pull up a couple more if you guys need more. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I won't be here up here playing. I'm done. I'm going to the bar. No, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here, supporting live music, and these great bands. All three of them are terrific ensembles. I want to say a special thanks to Andrew Martinez for bringing me out here. Not only is he the guy, but he's also the guy behind the guy behind the guy. So he's doing all the stuff behind the scenes as well. And I've just been working like crazy the last few days, as well as taking care of me. And I want to say that, you know, I always heard that the weather here in California was beautiful and just incredible. And I can't say that I can verify that by my trip here this week. You know, and the sun did finally come out today, which is great. I got to go out and enjoy it. But this is really, just kidding. This is just a beautiful area. And, this is my first time here in Santa Barbara, and I couldn't have asked for a nicer bunch of people to get to come and work with. And you know, music is something that connects us all and forges friendships that really truly last a lifetime. I've been friends now with Andrew for 30 some odd years. I have another longtime friend out here in the house somewhere. I can't remember if I see you in the dark. There she is. Hey, Kathy. They've been so great to see me in the band tonight. And so, and plus all these, you know, amazing musicians up here. I'm learning some of their names, but it is a lot of people to learn the names of. But they're all, you know, lifetime friends from now on. So whenever we run into each other, you know, we'll have this experience to share, and it's really a beautiful thing. So thank you guys so much. We're going to close this out with a chart that's not mine on a tune that's not mine. So this is a good old standard arranged by one of my dear friends. Who is the director of the 1 O'Clock Lab Band at the University of North Texas now. That's Alan Baylock. And he did this chart on All the Things You Are.
Let's give Ben Patterson a big round of applause. Ben Patterson. Thank you so much, Ben. And how about this great band? Okay. It's been such a pleasure for me. There's some great arrangers I'm a big fan of, you know, and Ben Patterson is definitely, you know, one of them. So it's really a pleasure to be here and to explore his mind and to like figure out all this stuff that he does. He didn't tell me everything, of course, but just to, you know, to do that. So it's a very big honor and it's a very big privilege to have him here. So we're really, really grateful. I do want to also remind us that we do have a couple other things that are coming up. We have a concert band performance that's coming out. We have a symphony performance as well. And then we also have all the combos, combo night over at the Soho on May 12th. So come out for that. And after that, I think that's about it. So we're going to go ahead and say goodnight to all of you. So thank you so much for coming and have a safe ride home. And thank you, Ben Patterson.
Good job.